Today we are talking about weird facts related to weight loss drugs. We'll start with an unfortunately named diet pill that is now discontinued.
Question: why take diet pills when you can enjoy AIDS? AIDS helps you lose weight without making you jittery.
So obviously during the 1980s, the emergence of the HIV/AIDS pandemic caused this weight loss drug Ayds, spelled AYDS, to have the same name as a pretty horrific disease, which, by the way, HIV/AIDS causes weight loss, so that's not great. The discontinuation of Ayds, however, might not have been as unavoidable as you first might think. In 1985, the president of the company that owns the Ayds diet candy claimed that sales actually went up because of the association with HIV/AIDS. This is likely why, in 1985, the Ayds executive Frank DePrima, clearly feeling very confident, said the product has been around for 45 years. Let the disease change its name. Well, 2 years later, in 1988, sales for the Ayds diet candy had fallen by 50%, and many think that this is because of the AIDS association. They tried changing the name to Diet Ayds, but I guess that didn't work because Ayds was eventually discontinued. Don't feel too bad, though. The active ingredient in Ayds, phenylpropanolamine, which acts as an appetite suppressant, was actually banned in the United States anyways because it was shown to significantly increase the risk of stroke. One of the first weight loss drugs was dinitrophenal, or DNP. During World War I, French munition workers came into contact with dinitrophenal. Why? Because dinitrophenal has a number of industrial uses. Namely, it's an explosive. It can also be used as a pesticide and herbicide to make dyes, to preserve wood, and so on. But anyway, some of the ammunition workers exposed to DNP started experiencing side effects, including weight loss. Some workers also died, but we're just going to ignore that for now. Instead, we're going to prescribe DNP to 100,000 people in the mid-1930s. And it actually worked for weight loss. Patients taking DNP typically lost 2 to 5 pounds per week that they took the drug. DNP works by disrupting the mitochondria in your cells so that mitochondria are less efficient at converting the stuff you eat into adenosine triphosphate, ATP, which is used as the main energy source for your cells. Instead, DNP causes mitochondria to generate more waste heat, and therefore your metabolic rate will increase and you'll burn more calories without having to do anything. While DNP is now banned by the FDA, as it turns out to have some pretty serious drawbacks. Side effects include rashes, liver problems, kidney problems, peripheral neuropathy, which is a type of nerve damage, but probably most concerningly, people taking DNP just sometimes go totally permanently blind. And DNP blindness can happen very suddenly. You can go to sleep with perfect vision and wake up the next day completely blind in both eyes. And sudden blindness has even been reported for people weeks or months after they stopped taking the drug. One source I read claimed that the prevalence for blindness for controlled doses of DNP were 1 in 170, which that seems high to me when we're talking about blindness. Apparently, blindness was the main reason the FDA banned the substance in 1938, but it's worth mentioning the people that DNP has killed. As we have established, DNP works by raising your body temperature, while DNP has a low therapeutic index. Basically, this means that the difference between a dose of DNP, which is effective for weight loss, and a dose of DNP that is toxic to the body is small. And so it's relatively easy to overdose on DNP, and overdosing means that you could experience dangerous hyperthermia. I read that an overdose can cause a body temperature of up to 111 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not good. Fevers usually start to be fatal around 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite this, people still take DNP today, and people still occasionally die from DNP. Here's a bonus fact about DNP. Since DNP raises body temperature, during World War II, the Soviet Union reportedly gave DNP to soldiers in the winter to help keep them warm, which is insane. I have to talk about this insane pill regimen called rainbow diet pills, which were popular in the 1950s and 60s. Typically, rainbow pills consisted of a combination of amphetamine, thyroid hormone, an herb called digitalis, laxatives, and diuretics to lose weight, and then a barbiturate to counteract the negative effects of the amphetamine. These drugs would all be in a different color, thus the name rainbow pills. In the 1960s, there were thousands of diet clinics that had been set up just to give out these rainbow pills. I should say that rainbow pills are not very good for you. The doctors that prescribe these rainbow pills seem pretty nefarious if you read about them. It was understood by the 1960s that you really should only give thyroid hormone to people with hypothyroidism, for example. They were beginning to understand serious conditions like thyrotoxicosis, which could occur when thyroid hormone was used for weight loss for people that did not have hypothyroidism. The variety of colors was also designed to manipulate by giving patients the perception of personalized care, when in fact all patients were given basically the same medications. A brochure explained to prescribers, quote, "You should have at least more than one color of every medication because imagine here come two women together. Do not give them the same colored tablet. Do not let them go out and say, well, all you have to do is get those blue pills. Give one of them blue and one of them pink. After all, it is individual medication for that patient. That's a little psychology, and it's well worth it. It's particularly designed for them. Anyways, by the late 1960s, things started to fall apart for rainbow diet pills. In 1968, an investigative reporter named Susanna McBee posed as a patient at 10 different obesity clinics, and despite not being overweight, she was able to obtain more than 1,500 pills, all without really ever having been properly examined by a doctor. She would at most sometimes get a very short physical. The same year, the Subcommittee on Antitrust and Monopoly uncovered that there had been at least 60 deaths linked to diet pills, and soon Congress began hearings into the rainbow diet pill industry, which ended with the banning of thyroid products intended to be taken with amphetamines or other products. Amphetamines were also much more regulated by the 1970s, although there are still to this day some amphetamines that can be prescribed for obesity, such as Qsymia, which is, I think is how it's pronounced. Before we move on to our last drug, I just want to quickly mention a drug that is currently approved for obesity and is actually available over the counter. Orlistat, also known under the brand names Xenicol or Ali? I don't know. It's a weight loss drug that works by preventing the intestines from being able to absorb fats properly. This creates the unfortunate common side effects of steatorrhea, loose, oily bowel movements. I guess if the fat isn't absorbed by your intestines, it has to go somewhere. This often can be mitigated by eating a low-fat diet while on Orlistat. The manual for Ali states that part of the weight loss drug is literally just trying to form a negative association between high-fat foods and unpleasant side effects. I guess almost all drugs do have to have some sort of trade-off, right? Now let's talk about semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy, which is currently, if not one of the most popular drugs currently approved for weight loss. Your body has a hormone called GLP-1, which has a number of uses in the body. One use is that GLP-1 stimulates the production of insulin and suppresses the release of a hormone called glucagon. Both of these effects lower the amount of glucose in the blood. So GLP-1 has been the interest of researchers involved in diabetes research for a long time. The biggest problem, however, is that GLP-1 decays very quickly within a minute, so there was no way to use GLP-1 in a medication. In the 1990s, there was a scientist named John Eng who was inspired by the work of John Pierre Rothman, another scientist who had previously done work with the venom of Gila monsters, a type of lizard which lives in the southwest United States. In 1992, John Eng was able to isolate a molecule in the venom of Gila monsters called exenidin-4, which actually mimics GLP-1 and importantly is effective for several hours, much longer than GLP-1. There was a company called Amylin Pharmaceuticals that licensed exendin-4 from Eng, and they were able to create a synthetic version called exenatide, which was approved by the FDA in 2005 for the treatment of diabetics under the brand name Byetta. People soon realized, though, that people who took Byetta often lost weight. And when people started realizing this, some people took Byetta off-label for weight loss. Novo Nordisk had the drug liraglutide, also a GLP-1 receptor agonist, approved in 2010 under the brand name Victoza, specifically for the treatment of obesity. Liraglutide is more effective at weight loss than exenatide, but requires daily injections, which has limited its popularity. Recognizing this, Novo Nordisk eventually came out with semaglutide, which is approved for diabetes under the brand name Ozempic in 2010 and for weight loss under the brand name Wegovy in 2021. Semaglutide is a once-weekly injection and better targets GLP-1 receptors, making it even more effective for weight loss than liraglutide. There are some side effects, especially regarding gastrointestinal problems, diarrhea, stomach pain, constipation, and vomiting, and sometimes these can be significant. According to the Mayo Clinic, in clinical trials, about 20% of people stopped taking semaglutide due to the side effects. But it's not like it's making people blind, and for many of these side effects are manageable. The weight loss aspect of semaglutide largely comes from the brain, which is pretty surprising considering that there's a thing called the blood-brain barrier, which sort of acts as a filter that stops large molecules from entering the brain. Well, semaglutide is a large molecule, so it seems like it shouldn't be able to get into the brain. There's currently scientific controversy about the exact method, but some small amounts of semaglutide appear to be able to slip into the brain, which causes the brain to produce its own GLP-1. And in the brain, GLP-1 is then able to reduce the sensation of hunger. The more we learn about semaglutide, the more of a miracle drug it seems to be. In addition to type 2 diabetes and obesity, it is thought with varying degrees of evidence that semaglutide might be an effective way to treat addiction to drugs, tobacco, and alcohol, treat certain types of obesity-related heart failure, treat Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, treat sleep apnea, treat non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, treat polycystic ovary system, and can lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. I mean, is this stuff for real? I've noticed that there's a lot of skepticism towards semaglutide online. There's no such thing as a miracle pill. If it's too good to be true, it usually is, stuff like that. And I understand the skepticism. After all, we've spent a lot of this video talking about weight loss drugs that turn out to have pretty significant negative side effects. But on the other hand, GLP-1 drugs are an entirely different mechanism of action than previous weight loss drugs. So maybe this one is different. And GLP-1 drugs have been on the market probably longer than most people realize, since 2005. So it's not like this is a brand new phenomena. I don't know, this part of the video might age terribly in 10 years when it turns out that semaglutide causes cancer or something. I will say that there is actually a way to make your body produce GLP-1 naturally. You can do it essentially by eating certain healthy foods and exercising. Well, okay, eat healthy and exercise to lose weight. Great. So, what does the future hold vis a vis GLP-1 drugs? Well, the company Eli Lilly just released the drug tirzepatide, another GLP-1 drug, through the brands Mounjaro, which was approved for diabetes in 2022, and Zepbound, which was approved for obesity in 2023. And tirzepatide is even more effective than semaglutide at weight loss. Eli Lilly is also developing a drug called retatrutide, which clinical trials have shown causes weight loss of around 24% in obese adults, even better than tirzepatide or semaglutide. So maybe these drugs will become the new hot weight loss drug in the future. Who knows? All right, that's the end of the video. You can leave now. Or you could stick around if you want to. That's fine. I think I'm actually going to go.